At the age of 19, m0NESY became an icon of Counter-Strike scene. Just a few years before, this little boy was just simply streaming his matches on FACEIT. Today he's fighting for a title, the best player in the world. And also he's playing for the most famous organization, G2, which he bought out the contract from the insane amount of money. Today we will take a closer look at m0NESY's story, how he went from a typical FACEIT player to the top team in the world, and why he exploited bugs at the biggest tournament major. Make sure to subscribe and support my channel with comments down below to make YouTube algorithm push this video more. Ilya m0NESY was born on 1st May 2005 in the Russian town Orekhovo near Moscow. His journey to Counter-Strike began with the support of his older brother Andrei, who introduced him to the popular shooter from a young age. At the age of 6, he started to play Counter-Strike 1.6, and when he was 9, he switched to Counter-Strike Global Offensive. They only shared one computer, so Ilya only used it when his brother wasn't home. Eventually, when Andrei got a new computer, he gave his old one to Ilya as a gift, which finally allowed him to play even more intensively. He saw it as an opportunity to play more. Ilya was a very talented kid from the start. His first rank in Counter-Strike Global Offensive was MG2, and in the next 8 months he reached rank Global Elite. But what was even more amazing was that Ilya started to play FACEIT at his age 11, and after his 150 games he reached out level 10. This is an achievement that many players don't get even after thousands of games played. Later on he also managed to reach 3K elo on the same computer, which was not very powerful as I mentioned. His entry to some of the first teams was somewhat random, because he often watched streams on Twitch where he came across one player called Rufire. He got to know him through Twitch chat and later got an invitation to join the new team New Balls, which is how Ilya at the age of 14 got an HLTV profile. He was even able to show incredible stats from the beginning. The teams like Espada, where he played against Dexter for example. He didn't have many officials here, he played only a few Moscow games against players like Lekindar, Hooch or Eliam. But even at this age he managed to earn $1,300. Ilya showed a really incredible game at his age of 14, but this very young age has its downsides of course. Because he was such a young player, the team had a lot of limitations that didn't even allow Ilya to play qualifying games for the most important big tier 1 tournaments. m0NESY because of that decides to leave his team and starts to actively streaming. His streams made a big boom from the start. This is the new simple. How does this 14 years old talent do all of this? He totally destroys his opponents and has over 3K elo on his FACEIT. This is how the community reacted to his player profile and streams on Twitch. They could easily reach at this time over several thousand viewers at the same time. The streams attracted a lot of people who were just simply fascinated by Ilya's style of playing. But there was one organization, NAVI, which was one of the first to realize the great seriousness of all young talents and saw a huge potential in m0NESY. NAVI started to make their own academies out of all young players. Anyone could join. All you had to do was to send your FACEIT account, say something about yourself, go through all of those interviews with all those coaches, and from there on we will see what is next. But Ilya was a special one. m0NESY got a NAVI appellation almost instantly. The organization had been following him from a long time, and it was clear that this would give him an insane amount of popularity in the world. NAVI were not afraid to take Ilya at such an early age into their organization. They were prepared to wait a few more months until Ilya grew up and until he was ready for the big tier 1 tournaments. By the way, when he got into NAVI, he revealed his biggest dream, which he even still wasn't able to successfully fulfill.
Заслужить слот в команде NAVI и держать топ-1 рейтинга или хотя бы топ-5 рейтинга на ХЛТВ. Также у меня есть мечта, это жить, то есть на буткемпе, не так на 2 недели или на месяц, а вот всегда именно. И хотя бы подержаться за этот кубок на сцене вместе со своей командой.
And who knows if he will be able to accomplish such a dream because of all those new conditions for NAVI players. They probably won't dare to sign a Russian player anytime soon. However, after one official game for NAVI Junior, Ilya finds out that NAVI is making one more roster for even younger players, where he ended up moving him to this team as well. He hasn't played a single official game in the NAVI youth team, but he's still getting a great amount of experience from all those coaches. For this specific time in his story, his biggest biggest achievement was an invite to the FACEIT Pro League. Funny thing in this story is that Ilya missed really extremely few points to get in, but the FPL admin saw this and sent him a direct invite to this league, where the main admin of this FPL league, m0NESY, said on Twitter that this league was originally created exactly for people like m0NESY. After some time, Ilya finally got the opportunity to perform for NAVI Junior, where he started to show some excellent results again. For example, he officially became the best player of the first Academy League from WePlay, despite the fact that his team has ended up on 5th place out of 8 teams. Just look at the stats here for example. The player who was behind Ilya had 1.36 KDA, while Ilya had insane 1.83. The organizer of this tournament also later revealed his estimate of how much might m0NESY be worth at this time. They eventually calculated this crazy amount to be $336,000. NAVI liked m0NESY that much that they weren't even afraid to take m0NESY as a substitute for the important RMR qualifier that qualifies you for the major championship from Star Ladder. No wonder other teams finally started to take interest in him. At the end of the same year, all the rumors about Ilya was that he was about to go to G2. At the beginning it really looked like the contract was signed already, because the biggest French portal wrote that G2 were really interested in m0NESY. Also, m0NESY himself posted stories on Instagram saying that his time has come, but the official assignment is still nowhere to be found. No one really knew if it was true or it's just a fiction. A lot of people even started to assume that NAVI failed to come to an agreement with G2, and we will probably see m0NESY either somewhere in Liquid, like it was before with Simple, or maybe somewhere in FaZe Clan. And as soon as Hunter himself after the major said that they don't really plan to change anything in this lineup, all the community after this information literally gave up on m0NESY in G2. But after a few days, NAVI put their NAVI Junior players up for transfer, saying that the first cycle of young players is over and it's time to recruit more younger talents again. Well, the next day after this message, m0NESY at his stream said a very suspicious message.
Congrats on the transfer to wherever you go. Hoping G2.
Insider Nell releases a message with all the information in just few moments after, as it turns out that G2 agreed to a huge amount of money for such a young talent worth $600,000. And now, when we are all looking back on it, you just realize that despite this massive amount, it paid off massively for G2. But NAVI also had something to be profited, because G2 agreed to the most important condition that if they ever sell m0NESY, the NAVI organization would also have a priority over other organizations. And on the January 3rd, it's finally official. Carlos Ocelot posted the tweet which whole community has been waiting for. m0NESY is finally on tier 1 scene, and from G2 release video, it was very clear that m0NESY was really taking this seriously.
Я иду за тобой, Саша.
On the other hand, Simple was just having fun of this, and he was pointing on the typical marketing of G2 organization.
Задаешь. Что скажешь насчет, что мне сказать? Что вы взяли в Г2? Молодец. Что сказать, блядь, про m0NESY? Про то, что он сказал фразу, которую попросили ему сказать, ну, это Г2. Организация Г2 всегда пишет, ну, типа, говорит своим игрокам какие-то такие, знаешь, какие-то слова байтовые сказать.
The first m0NESY Slam tournament was coming up in 2 weeks. G2 are very well known for their honeymoon period, where they always succeed despite everything they do. But m0NESY had a clear goal though. He said himself that he wanted to win this whole thing, but he didn't want to have such a pressure on him, so he will try to play with a calm head and do his best. Jeter after all managed to get into the arena at first LAN, and everyone was wondering what young Ilya would be capable of in front of such a big crowd in this huge arena. But he really did something incredible here. 45 kills in his first match against Virtus.pro. Jeter after all ended up taking the second place at this tournament, where they were at least successful in semifinals against NAVI, with this insane clutch from Ilya m0NESY.
On catwalk, finds the timing, 8 seconds, if he can drop the bomb it'd be everything, but it travels into the site. 1-on-2 for m0NESY now.
It's sacrificial, gives his position away, he wants m0NESY's aim gone! But this man, oh, the shepherd's staff takes down the GOAT, and he takes Simple out of the round to give it to G2.
But then they lost in the finals against FaZe Clan. Ilya started to be recognized by all analysts all over the world. Everyone said that he is the next Simple. This is the next player who will destroy everyone, and he will be at least like Simple in his old days. He also had a weird moment in his career when he exploited this strange bug at the World Major Champions in Antwerp, which allowed him to see through smokes. The community didn't like such a dirty play, so they started to do something about it. However, the Brazilian scene wasn't the happiest one, because this bug started to be the most discussed when G2 played against the Brazilian team Imperial, where thanks to this bug, Ilya made a double kill. m0NESY as a counter-argument said that the PGL organizers allowed him to use this smoke. But this topic is quite long, so we can probably make a separate video in the future if you would like to. The story of m0NESY is a story about that if you have a goal in your life to become the best, nobody can really stop you. Even age or an old computer, just nothing. At the age of 14 he has already become one of the most talked players on the scene, and now he's already leading the race to become the best player on HLTV. If you like this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos on this channel, and hit the like button to support YouTube algorithm. Thank you and see you on the other video.